But I'm on a fixed income. It just isn't cutting it anymore with my younger son, Michael. He means well. Even he knows if things carried on as they were, I'll break his bank. You see, he takes me to soccer matches, buys the tickets, buys me beer sometimes, and as a decent son would, he used to absorb the pain. I mean, the cost of it. Right? The last few times we went to some of the soccer games after a well-fought soccer match, well, not every match, that is. The following day, he'd ask me for the money he spent on my beer back. Of course, I give it to him. The first time he asked, it caught me by surprise and left me short because I don't mess around when I go and watch a football match, you see.
Yeah, yes, yes, I know. Yes.
It was a lot of beer.
Yeah.
The other night we met up with some other ex-soccer players and their coach, who's still active, for an artisan hamburger or two. You've seen the evidence, I
Yes.
believe.
Yeah.
He split the bill with the other two ex-athletes and the following day asked me for my part. Damn it, I thought. I thought I'd slipped under the radar. So what have I had to do? Limit what I can do, of course. It's what anybody with even an ounce of sense would do. If the cost begins to pinch, you can either adjust what you spend on other items and continue on, or limit what you do in accordance with the funds in hand. The ABC of good housekeeping.
Yeah.
Right, right. So it came as no surprise to me that the US has reached the point that Michael did and is asking for all its fellow NATO members to start chipping in more for their NATO coverage. In his first term, he called everybody delinquent. That's the US president. He called everybody delinquent because they weren't dividing the burden fairly of the elitist club. Some heeded his words, like Poland, for example, but on the whole, the rest fell short. And as any change would do, it did do an initial boost on NATO's coffers, but that soon died down. The US president reiterated his call for more money from the NATO countries once he was re-elected this year. The European members are dragging their feet too slowly, so Trump had to take the bull by the horns. So, similarly as he did with the World Health Organization, which wasn't giving good value for money for whatever reason, he's going to cut off. He's going to cut them off. Basically, he's going to cut the countries off.
Yeah.
It's being worked on at home for the US to reduce its contributions to NATO by 50%, which this year, above amongst other things, the Pentagon plated 3.9 billion. So if the president had his way, this would be cut to save $2 billion, I imagine, mostly by bringing troops back home and closing down military bases in European countries. Now it seems that the European nations got a flea behind their ear, as after being warned by Trump about the lack of military spending, and Trump deciding enough is enough and reduce the American cost to help save the US economy, it's his fault. Some European nations, sorry, delinquent European nations, are calling Trump a traitor to the West, when it's been them who have been riding on the American shirt tails for so many years. They obviously are they're obviously in the champagne taste lemonade money syndrome, but they can't see it yet, and they're trying to put the blame of their shortfall on anybody else except for themselves. So what must they do? Either put their hands in their pockets or scale it back on the world stage. No longer will they be known as the powerhouse of the Western world, of course being relegated to places like, well, here, Brazil, where the military is spending too much money, mostly on military pensions, and are sensibly cutting back on the regalias, which came from almost a protected profession. So I would be acting like a European branch of NATO if instead of making my own adjustments, I just complained about my son, because he wasn't prepared to be my sponsor anymore. And of course, he would be quite right to say that. On a side note, it seems that the US contributions going to the United Nations will meet the same fate as those going to NATO too.
Yeah. Thanks.
So that's my little tuppence worth.
Well, yeah. With regards to your son, I must admit there has been time when you invited a guest along who
Yeah.
he also paid ticket for and bought the beer
Yeah.
for. Yeah,
No, he didn't buy the beer, but he did buy the tickets.
yeah, yeah. I always appreciated that. Very, very, very good. Um, yeah, I wasn't in a position to at the time. It was a bit embarrassing. Yes. Um, yeah, I left my wallet at home if I remember rightly. That was it, wasn't it?
There you are.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. I managed to leave my
what it
wallet
was.
at home. Yeah. Um,
Don't you should never dwell on that. Don't
yeah,
dwell on it.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. It is a yeah. It's interesting. We've been saying this a while, and like the warning shots came when the 45th president said what he said, and now the 47th president is there, and he's acting upon what the 45th presidential administration said. Yeah. Only this time, the 47th administration has got the support around him that he wanted where before. Yeah. So he's carrying out as he promised in his elections. I seem to remember this being a discussion when he was being elected by the American people or promising the American people. Speaking as a European, um, I remember thinking years ago when I was a teen or just in the 20s, how does America afford to have all these bases across Europe, Germany and other places? Yeah. Yeah, I know some American military personnel used to quite enjoy their stints in Germany sometimes. Yeah. As did anyone that did any training with them. You got on a military base in Germany, it's like going on into a mini US town. Yeah. Everything's there you could possibly want. Um, yeah, it's well, they make it home from home because that's morale for the families, etc. So yeah, because when we talk about stationing the Americans, they don't just station um, the troops there; they sometimes station the families, I believe, and just about anyone out. Yeah, you know, well, you know a little bit about this moving around with military families. Um, it is a I don't blame the US at all. Now, the other side of it all is I see, as you said, the delinquency. Um, America pays for everything, and then people think they're still at liberty to criticize the US for doing things, not being involved enough, or being involved, or washing their hands of this, or not doing this. They can never win. Now, it's like you say, if you've got a member of family like that, you eventually do, yeah, you cut them off. Yeah, that's it. I've had enough. Yeah. Um, and given that the Trump administration is running the US more like a company,
There you are.
looking after the shareholders' financial interests, i.e., the American taxpayers. Yeah. Um, I we can't really criticize I'm going to call it the administration because it needn't have been Trump. It could have been anyone. Yeah. Who's not playing by the global elitist or whatever term you want, a political global elitist games, if or whatever rules or whatever else label you want to put on them. Yeah. I'll be quite honest on a personal level, I'm quite enjoying all this. Yeah. I don't think Russia is a threat that everybody makes them out to be. Need to be kept in check, certainly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, naughty boys for doing what they're doing in Ukraine. Yeah. But nobody's going to go and personally slap Putin on the wrist and do anything because there's nothing you could do. Um, it it is a case, yes. I mean, military spending, maybe some more. Is there a need for NATO? Well, there's probably a need for some sort of joint control of military across Europe. Yeah, NATO has probably had its day in some senses. We now know that it's absolutely impotent when it comes to actually doing anything because Ukraine has proved this. Yeah, we're not living in 1930s or even 40s. We are now living where we got yeah, the hardware has changed a little bit. Yeah, with potential.
It isn't even that, Mark, as I see it. You said two things up until now.
Yeah.
One is that you don't understand how it is that the United States managed to put so many bases around the world.
Mm.
And I can tell you how they did it. It's quite simple because when the US went off the gold standard and their GDP debt was very, very low,
Mm.
it's very low.
Yeah.
All the United States had to do was print dollars.
Yeah.
And that's why they've got I think it's $65 trillion debt now,
Mm.
right? And nobody was complaining about it because it was just dollars. It's dollars.
Yeah.
It's the US dollar.
Mm.
Great market, fantastic commercial market, in terms of exports and imports,
Yeah.
Um, the US was like the sponge of
Yeah.
everybody's goods. They absorbed them all, so everybody kept quiet.
Mm.
Now Trump, he's not like you said, he's not a politician. He's
Mm.
a commercial guy,
Yeah.
and he realizes that it can't go on.
Mm.
Whereas politicians, they just what the famous kick the can down the road quote.
Yeah.
So they'll leave it on to the next ones and to the
Mm.
next ones, to the next ones, and so it goes
Yeah.
until it's too late. And that's where we find ourselves. Trump has finally decided, let's put the brake on.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. I don't think it was only now that it's been saying this. I mean, we've seen the famous Donald Trump from around about 20 years ago, 20,
Yeah.
30 years ago,
Yeah.
on that chat show saying that, the world's laughing at the US because it's exploiting the US far too much. You
Mm.
know, he could see the writing on the wall all back then, way back then.
Oh yeah.
And if
Yeah.
the truth be known, everybody saw it, but didn't want to say anything about it.
This is it. I mean, it'll get better and everything else. Now, the other thing is, and you see it quite often, there's ordinary people, even some politicians, probably say, "Oh, it's only $2 billion." Only, only $2 billion.
Would spend an awful lot of stuff in the US.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's it. If I was an American taxpayer, well, we have it in the UK. It's only 2 billion. It's only $1 billion or so, £1 billion or saying. Excuse me, my family paid tax in the UK. When one of a member of my family can't even get medical treatment on the state thing rapidly, that billion pounds is kind of important at that stage. I mean, I'm not entirely certain how budgets work and everything. Well, I do know how budgets work. They don't. Yeah, it's all kicked around. So when a politician tells me or says, "Oh, it's only a billion pounds," yes, it's £1 billion. It could be better spent on British people. Yeah, and that is Trump's attitude. Yeah, I mean, there's one thing is saving all this money. It's the next thing is how do you control it internally for now and for 20 years time? How do you stop getting back to the same state of affairs? you have a very robust, auditable business plan, I'd suggest. And I imagine Donald Trump's mind has probably already gone to that, or somebody would have done, or Musk's or somebody's would have gone to that. Yeah. I mean, we have to remember Musk and Trump are yeah, two sides of the same coin. What was the expression? Yeah, they're both business people who understand cash flow, who understand bottom line. Yeah. One is probably more technically able than the other. So he's out of the game now a bit now, isn't it? Now Musk is because he's moved on. He's gone back to his day job because his contract expired. Yeah. He acted as almost a consultant, went in, did his job, got out, set it all up. He's done a project management thing. He's left somebody capable behind him. Yeah, I
Sorry
mean,
about that.
yeah, getting back to yeah, it's okay. Getting back to NATO. Um, yeah, I mean, like you said, he gave the warning.
Sorry about that. Go
That's
on,
okay.
continue.
Yeah, yeah. He gave the warning last time. Everybody thought they got rid of Trump. He comes bouncing back in, and yeah, which wasn't in the plan somehow. People are still going to scratch their head why anyone in the US would vote for him and not Harris. Well, I'm on the ground, man. Yeah, I could give you a lot of reasons. Yeah.
Kamala, if I only had a brain, Harris.
Well, I'm not saying anything. I mean, yeah, sometimes you have to vote for whom you consider to be the lesser of two evils. Yeah. So you okay. I mean, yeah, I'm using it as an example. Yeah. But I don't blame, not say the American administration, US administration for being very, very tough with Europe now on a lot of things. And I'm European. He's readdressing the balance.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think he's being tough on Europe. He's just putting the house in order.
well, yeah,
Not
but
he's not punishing Europe.
well, have you seen the rhetoric coming out? You've highlighted the rhetoric coming
But
out of Europe. You think,
that's
yeah,
right. That's what I'm saying. They're,
yeah,
they're like they're like it's his fault, and it isn't.
yeah,
He's just putting the American accounts in order.
yeah. Well, you mustn't actually do things for the population of a country now in this global political global elitist world. Yeah. Now that's how exactly how I see it. It's taken me 25 years to get to this point of thinking,
Yeah.
where I always thought that eventually the politicians across Europe would eventually smooth themselves out. I was even willing to give the European Union a go when I was about 16, 17. Yeah. Um, I'm now in my mid 50s, and I've realised, well, this is just a dream we were sold. And again with NATO, I remember NATO everywhere in the 70s. Even then, I remember, well, being a bit at school, and I think a school teacher said, "What do you think NATO actually does?" And none of us could really answer. Yeah. Well, they'd fire a nuclear weapon back at Russia. Back at Russia? Bit late by that stage, I'd suggest. Yeah. I mean, this is why I don't buy this thing about the war anymore. I grew up in the 1980s. We were told at school, as I said in the previous podcast, to hide under the desks should a nuclear strike happen. Yeah. Now we'd all seen the footage of nuclear strikes. I don't think even us actually had believed it would happen. Then, yeah, we went to school every day. The teachers didn't really dwell on it in the school I was in. I think they passed a sarcastic comment, yeah, or it says if you hear the siren go, just get under the desk, guys. You know, that was it. Nothing else said. They weren't going to tell us, yeah, what to do after that. Yeah, it's a. I think NATO is a waste of money. It's like any other organisation, like a big health organisation or a big UN organisation or a big health organisation, or call it even education organisation. The more money put into it, the more it will spend. Yeah. And the more it sees free money coming in, the happier it is. Yeah. It's like a goblin. It just keeps eating and eating and eating. If you suddenly got somebody who says there, where's my value for money in all this? What am I getting for my bucks? Is that unreasonable? Yeah. Politicians forget where the money comes from. It comes from the likes of you and me. I mean, you've said about Brazil, the defense spending in Brazil is having to be reviewed. Obviously, there's a lot of because not so much so, but yeah, they had national service in Brazil, unless you could think of a good reason not to do it.
Still do. You've still got to turn up.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, for males that is, not for females. Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know if you had to, yeah, I know a few of my male relatives have done it. I know, I think there's one or two have gone and made careers out in the military. Yeah, and they've quite enjoyed themselves there. Yeah, it's a big social club from what I can tell. And yeah, I know people in Brazil have managed to get out of doing national service for general sort of reasons. Apparently, they can't see beyond 50 meters or something. I don't know. Yeah,
Michael, my younger son's case,
yeah,
is a university,
yeah. So he was doing something. Yeah,
so he was exempt.
yeah. I mean,
But
that's it. Yeah.
he still had to turn up.
Oh yeah.
He still had to turn up and mark
Oh,
his presence.
well, yeah. Present yourself. Yeah. Which is fair enough. I can't see any objection to that. You go there, you present yourself at university. It proves you're not fraudulent. They can ask you questions. Oh, so you're doing media studies, right? You're in. Oh, you're doing You're doing legal studies. Well, we need you in society. There's the door there. Goodbye. Yeah. Um, yes. Yeah, I mean, good luck to you, Trump. I think you're doing a bang up job the way you're treating the Europeans. I'm
I
enjoying
think
it. Yeah.
I think Trump's major complaint against NATO
Yeah.
is the NATO was made as a deterrent,
Yeah.
and it's becoming to be somewhat of an offensive organization
Yeah.
as rather than a deterrent, and it's gone way off
Mm.
its
Remit.
original
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah, it's remit. Yeah, I mean, that's what I said, and it keeps taking money. I mean, I believe I heard something when Trump was elected last time. Somebody's put a different spin on it. And he said the amount we're spending on nuclear weapons, will we ever use them? Why don't we use them? I think his actual phrase was, why don't we use them? Yeah. Meaning, okay, if I'm spending money on them, why aren't I using this screwdriver, this tool? Yeah. Well, that's not the idea. But yeah, he was making a point. We were spending all the money on it. And don't forget, we don't need massive nuclear arsenals. Yeah.
What will
it,
do if it's well aimed?
eh?
What will do if it's well aimed?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Um, okay, Russia have got the biggest nuclear arsenal in the world, but what does that mean? It means they're annihilated within 20 hours. Yeah, because that's the biggest individual arsenal. Um, yeah, cut your spending, work out what you're getting for your bucks.
Yeah.
Better to pursue a policy of peace, negotiation, and business with other nations rather than one of aggression and war. I
Yeah,
know
and
it's an idealist thing, yeah.
the European nations grow up, sort your shit out, and get your military up to scratch.
Yeah, but the European nations have been around for about 3,000 years. You'd have thought we'd have
Well, they used to have their armies,
yeah,
and quite strong armies as well.
yeah,
When everybody was battling for that bit of land.
yeah. But
But recently, because of them letting the US take the slack,
mm,
they didn't need to, did they? And now he's taking this specter, if you like, of
yeah,
protection
yeah,
away. It's left everybody naked, and they don't like it. They can see where they have got it wrong.
yeah.
They don't want to blame it on themselves. That's why they blame it on him.
Well, no, it's individual politicians that blame it themselves. There's a lot of internal commentators who are saying what you're saying, yeah, and it's been said for years. And what nearly exposed it back in the 80s, what our ineptitude with military is exposed with the Falklands War. The preparation to go to war was exposed with the Falklands. And it was quite closely run. I mean, when the Vulcan bomber went and attacked, they found a second-hand part or an old part for the Vulcan bomber on the table being used as an ashtray. Just so happens somebody saw it. Oh, we need that quickly. That was the new part. The whole thing was a joke. Nobody quite knew how the Vulcan bomber actually bombed Port Stanley airfield. They do now, but again, you couldn't run that kind of operation day in day out.